So, Captain America Brave New World was directed by Julius Ona and it stars Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford. In this movie, Sam Wilson is now Captain America after the events of Endgame and Falcon and Winter Soldier and such. He is now helping President Ross, who is now played by Harrison Ford, and he is asking Sam Wilson to do various things, Captain America, but then a conspiracy involving Thunderbolt Ross occurs, and this is a movie that is happening. So this was a movie that, admittedly, of the three Marvel movies that are opening up this year, this was the one I was looking forward to the least. Now, I do like Sam Wilson, I do like Falcon, and I was definitely curious to see what he would do as Captain America, and I felt like this movie had a lot of issues going into it. Like, obviously, if you've read about the production of this movie, there were a lot of reshoots, a lot of things added into this movie, and they were apparently just reshooting all the way up through last fall, which is like very shocking to say the least. And the trailers themselves actually looked okay. It looked like it could be at least a fascinating movie, very well done action movie, kind of akin to something like, say, Captain America: The Winter Soldier and such. This is a movie that is not Captain America: The Winter Soldier, unfortunately. And to kind of paraphrase what Harrison Ford says in this movie, you may be Captain America, but you're not the Winter Soldier. So this movie, there are a few good things I like about it. I'll get into those first. First off, I do think the performances are solid. I did like Anthony Mackie in this movie. I thought he was really good. Harrison Ford, I actually thought he was very fascinating in this movie. I liked his take on Thunderbolt Ross quite a bit. And also, this is not only the most interesting that character has been in a long time, but also the fact that this is the most interesting Harrison Ford has been on the big screen in quite a while. That is shocking, to say the least. Also, among the supporting actors, I would say Carl Lumley does the best. He returns from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought he was really good in his performance. I do think that there are very interesting topics that this movie discusses. Topics that normally wouldn't be in a Marvel movie, about how men in power, how they fail, how they, try to fix things. It's very fascinating to kind of see that in a movie like this and kind of says, all this is kind of awful. They kind of like do it like this and such. I do think the movie does ask interesting questions if you do watch it, which I feel like that's at least interesting for a Marvel movie. And also, I do think there are action sequences in this movie that admittedly aren't that great. I will say they do get better. At first, they looked a little choppy. They looked a little too, they cut around so much that you can't really tell what's going on. But by the end, it's like, okay, there's at least some effort in this movie. Like, there's one at sea that's really good, and obviously the one between Captain America and Red Hulk is very well done despite some CGI. The action sequences are a little bit better as they go on. But let's talk about the things I don't like about this movie. There's quite a bit. First off, I do think this movie is very slow. This movie is only 2 hours, which is about the average length of a Marvel movie, I feel like. And this movie definitely has a lot of pacing issues. This movie kind of felt like it was taking forever to kind of like get to where it was going, but at the same time it also felt way too convoluted. When you realize what's going on, I'm like, wait, what is happening exactly? Like, what is going on? Okay, I guess this is the movie now. And I'm kind of amazed that this is actually the movie. I'm surprised by that. Also, I didn't really care for most of the new characters. Danny Ramirez, he plays the new Falcon in this movie pretty much. I didn't really care for his character too much. He's kind of like a comedic foil at times, but unfortunately, a lot of his comedy does not land. Shira Haas is a assistant to Thunderbolt Ross in this movie, and I thought her character was so boring. She has one action sequence that's edited really sloppily and also kind of in the dark. So what was the point? It's mentioned. This is not really a spoiler. I'll spoil it because it's not really that big of a spoiler. If I'm being honest, she's mentioned that she was in the same Black Widow program as Natasha and Yelena. That could have been interesting if the movie actually did anything with that, but no. Also, Giancarlo Esposito in this movie. Now, I love Giancarlo Esposito. I thought he was wasted. I thought he was such a wasted potential. Like, why bring him on if this is the character he's playing? I don't get it. Tim Blake Nelson, he's okay. He's not a terrible Marvel villain in this movie, but he's just very generic in my opinion. I feel like a lot of the new characters were at least kind of generic. And I know Tim Blake Nelson was an Incredible Hulk, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later. Also, again, the action early on is pretty choppy. Like, it cuts around so much, it's kind of hard to tell what's happening at times. And I don't know if that's because Julius Ona has not really directed action movies before, but I have seen Marvel directors do well in action, despite the fact that they don't really come from an action background. Say Daniel Destin Cretton, who did Shang-Chi. I feel like it's mostly on him that the action sequences don't really stand out, unfortunately. And again, the comedy. And I get Marvel has a lot of issues with comedy. The comedy in this movie falls completely flat. There were times in this movie where I was just groaning, like, oh my god, they were so bad and they were just so awkward. I did not find them that funny. And also, the weak ties to the MCU are obvious. Like, obviously, this is a follow up to Falcon and Winter Soldier. Okay, that's kind of what I expected. But it also throws in aspects of the Incredible Hulk in there. Also throws in aspects of the Eternals. You know, Marvel movies that people don't care about. Personally, I don't care about them. So I felt like I remember going into this movie. It's like, what movies should I watch to kind of prepare for this? At least with some of the other Marvel movies, I kind of watched them again to kind of prepare for this one. Like for Ant Man the Wasp Quantumania, I rewatched Ant Man and Ant Man the Wasp. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I watched Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and Volume 2. But what was I supposed to watch with this one? Apparently, I was supposed to watch Incredible Hulk again, which, why? Also, I was supposed to watch Eternals again, why? And also, I was supposed to watch Falcon and Winter Soldier again, didn't have the time. I guess the ones that Sam Wilson was in, but there's really no point to really anything in this movie, unfortunately. I also feel like this movie tries so hard to be like Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which that movie was such an elevation from the first Captain America movie, and with its more politically themed messaging and some of its action sequences, and definitely a darker tone than some of the other Marvel movies that are out there, it felt like it kind of fell apart at times, unfortunately, with this movie. Like the thing with Winter Soldier was that that movie at least had a storyline that was engaging and it was changing the course of what Marvel was going to do and such. This movie, I feel like it doesn't really do anything new. It kind of feels like it's more ripping off what Winter Soldier did and trying to make it into a new Captain America movie, which I felt like didn't quite work out as well as I was thinking they were hoping for. This is a movie that definitely felt like it got chopped up because of all those reshoots. This is a movie that I look at, and at first I was like, okay, that wasn't so bad, but the more I think about it, I'm like, I really did not care for this movie. This movie has, again, decent performances, some interesting themes, and again, some action sequences are pretty good, particularly in the second half of the movie. But it's those first half of the action sequences that are not particularly great. It's the slow pace, the convoluted plot. Most of the new characters are not very fascinating. The comedy falls flat. The ties to the MCU are kind of pointless, in my opinion. And again, it kind of takes a lot of things from Winter Soldier, except the fact that the stakes are raised, the course correction, the not necessarily course correction, but like things were changing in the MCU because of that movie. And I felt like it took all the wrong lessons from the Winter Soldier, unfortunately. So I just hope that Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four First Steps are better MCU movies than this movie is. It's it's disappointing because again, I do like Anthony Mackie and I was hoping this movie would do really well, but unfortunately it doesn't. I'll give Captain America Brave New World 2 out of 4 stars. Stream it. So, what's your favorite Captain America movie or your favorite movie involving Sam Wilson or favorite Sam Wilson moments? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.